I can second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cool. Okay, let's go. Okay, so
You need to make an announcement that the meeting's being recorded and video.
Oh, yeah. So we are going to have a guest here, and the town is going to stream this live. So if you don't want to be on TV, now's your chance.
And we're recording it,
Right.
so.
Okay? All right. On the agenda tonight, two things, really. At least one thing. We'll see if we get to the second one. We're going to have a guest here. His name's Matt Mason from Reed Inc. He's made a proposal to the town for a syngas project. This is not the same thing that the town voted against 3 or 4 years ago or whenever. I was not involved. I don't even think I lived in town at the time. In a minute, I'll turn it over to Matt. He can explain who he is, what he does, what he's proposing, and then part of our goal here is to educate the town, because we know there are going to be a lot of questions, and we know that people are going to draw the parallels between the previous project proposal and this one. We had Matt join us 2 months ago, Matt, 3 months ago. And
Can we hear that?
You're on mute.
can you?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
No problem.
And we were intrigued, certainly, by his presentation. There are a number of people on the board and other people in town that saw the presentation and recognized that this is not a repackaging of the previous project that was that was presented to the town, and the price tag on this one is right. So with that, Matt, I may turn it over to you, and you can introduce yourself, and then maybe give us a very high-level recap of the company and what you do, and then maybe I think we want to hear about your updated proposal for Ashland, if that works.
Yeah, I guess what I can do is just skip a couple slides. I'm just going to go through the previous
Yeah.
slide deck. and
Yeah,
just
we don't
kinda
have to
do-
necessarily go through every single slide like you did last time.
Can you hear this?
You need it louder?
It should go through the TV. I don't know why it's not. What's that?
Too many consoles. Yeah. Too many engines for me.
Rather than that of his laptop.
I'm gonna over here.
You are.
Yeah, I am. So,
Is there any way? Is there a speaker in here that you can pump into?
I just draw audio directly from the microphones and
That's
speakers.
not going through the TV.
All right. He does not.
Okay.
Okay, we'll do what we can.
There you
No,
go.
that was good. Okay. Go for it.
Ron? Good to go?
Yep.
I guess.
Okay.
All right, so just to let you know, again, I don't come here alone. There's other organizations, engineering groups, finance groups that I work with. I'm sort of the cat herder who kind of brings everybody together. Skip over this. What is being proposed for Ashland is more than just something to process waste. We're looking at proposing bringing a number of different technologies together, and this is something I've been working on in depth since early 2018. Reviewing a number of technologies that by themselves don't provide a environmentally conscious, comprehensive waste solution. If we put it together, it does. Currently, the groups I'm working with, we're looking for basically a place to build this, but also to allow for additional future development for other industries and commercialization. What the ARP does is not an incinerator. Not incinerating. We do produce heat and power, but our primary goal is to take waste and turn it into methanol. Now, methanol is actually, you guys probably have, you drive around with methanol every day. It's in your windshield wiper cleaner. But it's a simple alcohol, but it's a very important simple alcohol. It's used for making plastics, or if you turn into gasoline. Right now, it's becoming the primary fuel for major shippers. Like Maersk is converting all their ships now to burn methanol, not diesel. And this is part of the IMO 2020 ruling that because methanol burns so clean, all the ships have to burn methanol now. This is just gives you an idea quickly what you can make with methanol.
Just a minute and see if I can hear us.
You can?
Can you hear?
Matt, 1 second.
Yeah.
We good?
You can hear
Yeah.
it? Okay.
You can
All right.
move closer.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we're good.
I don't do front row.
We're good, Matt. Go for it.
All right. So again, just as Maersk is going on a buying spree looking for renewable methanol made from waste biomass. They announced they're willing to pay 3 times the actual going price for it if they to get it because if they hit their carbon neutral goals by using renewable methanol. All right. So the heart of the system is going to be the Fast Fox gasifier. This was developed in California by a company called Sierra Energy. It is overseen, regulated, and approved by the Monterey County Air Resources Board. So this is approved in California. And this produces from waste very high quality synthesis gas. The synthesis gas is a combination of carbon dioxide, hydrogen, CO2. The chair you're sitting on, the clothes you're wearing, the parts of the car you drove over here in, and the certain parts of this were at one time synthesis gas before they were turned into materials. And what is really good about this system is that you don't need a landfill. Whatever's left over is actually vitrified into a non-toxic, non-leaching glass, which becomes gravel. It can be used for mixing with concrete. It can be used for landfill. It can be used for general construction. This system was developed under grants from the Department of Energy and also the U.S. Department of Defense. So by running the Fast Fox, if we were to do, let's say, into Ashland, a full-size plant, and this is modular, we can start off small, but if we were doing a full-size plant, this would give you an idea as to what the revenues would be. Now, the federal incentives part, that's may be there in the future, maybe not. The plant does not depend on it. There's just extra money in the, make it even more economical. But the total output incentives would be about $600 million a year. And the idea behind this is that what it means for Ashland is that any type of these projects has a revenue share. In addition, which Dino will go over later, is proposed as doing under this a private-public partnership that would allow additional revenue share to Ashland to go to upgrading your, to capital upgrades, water, sewer, electric. So you can actually bring in the additional development that you're looking to do. It's a way of financing. We're not asking for any money from Ashland from this. We don't need money from Ashland. We don't need money from the state.
Can you repeat that, Matt? Matt, can you repeat that?
We don't need any money from Ashland. We don't need any bonding. We don't need any money from the state. What we need is a town or city that says, yes, we have property we're looking to develop, and if you come, we will let you build it. Because this doesn't require subsidies to make money. In addition, the subsidies that are there is everything from loan guarantees to grants to tax credits that make it very viable for a private entity to come in and finance this. The whole project can be done in stages. Stage 1 is enhanced recycling. That's why I was mentioning your biosolids, but I guess you only clean it out once every 50 years or so. But for C&D waste, right now there's a big issue with getting rid of gypsum. plasterboard, drywall. You put it into a landfill, bacteria break it down, it gives off hydrogen sulfide. A lot of states now are shipping it all the way to Ohio and Pennsylvania. Technology is available right now to actually recycle that. Pull out the paper, pull out the nails, and these plants are currently running in Europe. They're looking to build it here in the U.S. And it makes money. 30% of all the gypsum that was produced in the U.S. actually wasn't mined. It came from coal-fired power plants, turning the sulfur they take out and turning it into gypsum. So if you're wondering why, the drywall is getting so expensive, that's part of the reasons. And right now, it's economically viable to actually recycle drywall. Stage 2, this is what I was saying, would be maybe ideal for a scaled down, something you could tie into your electrical co-op. Certain things don't go well in the fast stock system. Things you don't want to break apart, or you generally package, you don't want to have expired pharmaceuticals, larger pieces of C&D waste, anything that's very high ash content like biosolids. Maybe that's for the fast ox. But the Dynamo system, which has been running in Alaska since 1997 and was also developed for portable units for the U.S. Air Force for overseas bases, this is ideal. This is for heat power only. Now, one thing that's developed since the last time I talked is there some new generating equipment that is now been commercialized that would actually really reduce the cost of putting winning systems in. These are one's called a Carno generator. It doesn't use steam. And it has about a 50% efficiency rate, which is about 20% higher than you get from a steam turbine. And it's a lot less expensive to install. So this is something that could be started off small that would be profitable for a private entity to come in and finance that could be tied into your electrical co-op. Stage 3 is of course where we would actually start making the methanol with the fast stock system. In stage 3, we also have the ability to capture CO2 since this is a non-incineration method. For carbon dioxide actually has value. For your carbonated drinks and also for the CO2 that's used in meat packing, that actually came from the production of syngas in fertilizer plants. And there's actually been a shortage of CO2 now. So if we were to take a full 2,200 ton per day plant, it would produce about $4.5 million a year in CO2 that could be pulled out and shipped out and going to bottlers, meat packers. So anyway, it's again more of the processing crash would have additional power that we'd be able to export out to other developments, to the town itself, and essentially it would give the people of Ashland much more affordable energy. So that's the quickie the quickie presentation.
Matt, can I ask you to, you had shown us a emissions slide at one point versus the EPA requirements. Can we spend a minute on that slide?
Sure. I may not have it on the slide deck, but I have it on the slide deck. Hold on.
That's one of the questions that will come up. Go ahead,
Give me a minute to pull it up.
jump in. Always looking to go.
Matt, this is Charlie. One of the things I think the audience would like to know about is why is Ashland interesting for this plant and this development?
One, you guys have land. You have a rail line that has now been taken over by Vermont Rail, who I have a working relationship with. They're a wonderful railroad company. Since we're not going to be only bringing product in, we have to bring product out, methanol, and you don't want to move it by truck. You guys are also right off a major highway that will give access to the site without having to bring trucks and vehicles from town. And New Hampshire, you guys have an issue where you've run out of landfill space. It's getting very expensive, and and you've got a lot of political opposition in opening up new landfills. So if you don't open a new landfills, you're going to be paying to haul your trash all the way to Pennsylvania and Ohio. And I know solid waste right now is they're investing in transfer stations to do just that, but you're going to be paying for it. So it's become, New Hampshire as a whole has become a very good target for one of these plants to come in, because it'll be far more competitive than hauling your waste 600 miles away.
If you can't find it, Matt, if you could just speak to
No,
it.
no, no.
Yeah, okay.
I got it. It's-
I've got a photo of it.
So for the fast box system, air emissions, there's not going to be air emissions because we're not actually combusting this synthesis gas. We're turning it into methanol. However, there will be slag created from it. That's what can be used as building material. This is actually from the testing that was overseen by the California Monterey County Air Resources Board, and these are leach tests. This is the federal one. These are the stricter ones that are by the state of California. And what they actually do is they stick this stuff in acid and to see if they can get anything bad to leach out of it. And from all these tests, it's considered non-toxic. You can use it as building material. And this is all the different items that they test for. So what they're looking for, the problem like incinerator ash, is a lot of metals get melted into it, and it's not chemically locked in. So a lot of the ash from incinerators, it will actually leach out, heavy metals over time. That's been a big issue with getting rid of incinerator ash. In this case, there's no leaching because any metals that are present in have been molecularly locked in. This is the similar technology they've been using to stabilize waste, like at the Hanford nuclear sites that have been cleaning up from the days of the Manhattan Project.
So, Matt, did you say that there's no emission, there's no stack, there's no smoke?
From the fast stock system. From the Dynamis system, which will be taking waste that the fast stock does, there will be a stack and there will be emissions. This is from the with MSW, municipal waste, from the plant up in Alaska. This here is the EPA standards. And this here is with the Dynamis station produced. This is before mitigation. This is before there's any baghouse, any devices that remove NOx, any devices that remove acid. This is like just the raw emissions before they actually go through pollution control. So for things like particulate, we're 90% below the EPA limit. For dioxins, for furans, we're 99.8% below. In other words, it's trace amounts. And then for the ash, because the gasification system not being incineration, the first stage is lower temperature, so it doesn't melt the metals into the ash. The ash itself is non-toxic. It is far below the EPA regulations. So that ash can actually then be turned into building material. It can be used for producing concrete, cements, bricks, and therefore no landfill.
Who will be doing that? People are buying it, or are you actually making it? That facility?
That facility is currently running in Alaska.
I think the question was, who's the customer for the output? This would be sold commercially, is that correct, Matt?
They're not recycling the ash up there because they have no need for it, and it's remote. Actually, they don't even generate power up there. They just do trash destruction. They get free natural gas from the North Slope, so they dropped off the power generation portion of it. For the ash, do I have any current customers? No, but the idea is that we're going to we're going to get customers for it.
And so that would be revenue that you would generate for your company, and then
It'd be revenue generated by the advanced recycling plant.
right, and then whatever deal that the town negotiates with you, whether we get a piece of that or a piece of something, that's all part of the negotiation process of.
Yeah, I presented to DNO and setting up a private-public partnership and also setting up a community development entity under the New Market Tax Credit Program, which you guys qualify for, which would actually be applicable to the town as a whole. And I'm sure Dina will go over the details on that.
So you can't actually give us actual numbers in comparison because you haven't really dealt with people saving money on the energy because they're not using the energy, or taking the waste and selling it and knowing what the market will be. You don't actually have real customers, right? So you can't really give us real numbers.
Let me try to
Correct? Or
explain.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, it's a good
That's a
question.
question.
It's a really important question, and I think this is what it makes this project very
I
different.
think it all sounds
than the
great,
past.
don't get me wrong, it's just questions that need to be asked.
We, as the town, are really not involved in those decisions and processes. This business that Matt is setting up is going to come here, and they're going to take in whatever, materials they need to operate. They're going to put out whatever they produce. They're going to try to sell and be as efficient as possible, but none of that is something that the town has to be involved in, other than there'll be a negotiation process for what this company is going to pay the town in order to operate here.
Correct, but what do they do with all that? I mean, how much room are they gonna have if nobody buys their waste?
Well,
How far does that get accumulated, and, I mean, you have to ask that question.
it is a good question.
They're only gonna get a certain lot of land, and
And that's
if it
right.
just accumulates
We're
and
not-
accumulates.
We're not going to be accumulating anything on land.
Right.
We wouldn't be even allowed to do that.
That's right.
If, let's say for whatever reason we couldn't sell the ash or we couldn't sell the aggregate, the operation would then have to move it to a landfill on its own time.
In other words, they're going to manage that, which makes this very different than proposals we've talked about in the past, where those problems would fall on the town.
So you wouldn't be using our landfill to put
Correct.
your,
No,
Correct.
no, you have if anything in the future, that unlined landfill, we may be able to actually clean it up.
okay.
So to allay some fears people may have, because companies come and go, sometimes they go bankrupt and the towns are left with what they leave. It's part of the negotiation process. And I'm not saying we want this, but would you be open to establishing a bond fund for any of this that you might be doing?
I brought that up to the first meeting, that there could be a liquidation bond to cover anything like oil companies and oil drillers do.
Mhm.
I'm not opposed to that, and I understand that would help, make everyone calmer, that there'd be if everything went bust, there'd be a fund there to disassemble the plant.
To clean it up.
Another question people will probably ask, and just so you're ready. So if you're gonna be transporting things out and transporting things in, because we're gonna think positive and say you're gonna get buyers for that, because obviously we want you to, sounds wonderful, and our profit goes up. Because it's a percentage, so I think it sounds like a win-win. People are gonna ask about traffic, just to be ready for that on. Because you're not just going to have other towns coming in to bring their waste, but you're going to have more leaving, hopefully.
We'd have over 1,000 rail cars of methanol leaving a year.
The
That's
key
what we
here,
want to move by rail.
rail-
That's on the
cars.
rail, so,
Yeah.
but you're gonna have to get it to the rails.
there will be some local, let's say we were to take in waste from local communities,
Yeah.
you'd see some of that traffic on the roads, but that's limited because I believe their plan is to take in waste from beyond the local community, and they would move it by rail. So as an estimate, Matt, 80%, 90% at the end of the day moves on rail as opposed to the road?
Well, anything that comes local would be on the highway as it's coming now. But you have. Let me just go ahead and just move the map real quick.
Well, and the nice thing about coming on the highway is the location would be right off the highway.
Yeah.
Which we
You
know
have
that
to move to a local
before.
town, which is it's just building a new exit off of there, and we don't have to drive through the town.
And the
That's
rail
what-
doesn't go right into you, So they're gonna have to move.
They will.
No, they will bring the rail
It
right
will.
into the
It
plant.
will.
Bring the rail right in.
Into the
Oh,
plant.
well, I'm impressed.
Right, and it would,
They're talking about working with the Vermont Rail Company,
Yeah.
and they want to rehabilitate the entire line.
Okay.
They just,
What line are you talking about?
the one that goes goes through Ashland.
That's privately owned.
No, it's not.
No, it was just
No.
bought out by Vermont.
that's owned
It
by
was
the,
just, it
that's
was,
owned by the state.
What happened to
It's owned by the
Patriot?
state, but Vermont Rail has been given.
what happened to Patriot? They bought it in August of 2023 from Lincoln to Laconia for the hobo and the Winnipesaukee excursion.
They bought the leases. I think they bought the leases.
I looked it up before I came, it said owned,
Oh, really?
yes. They had a press release.
Okay.
All
No
right.
freight runs on that line now.
But they can. I mean, they can switch.
That rail
and
line
then have certain
cannot carry
hours where
freight.
one can
Right,
run.
right.
And
It would have
certain
to be
hours where
rehabbed.
others can run. I mean, they do that in Boston.
Are you talking about from Concord?
Matt, can you speak to this rail initiative and what is on the table here?
Well, from my discussions of Vermont Rail is that they've taken over management of this line. It's still owned by the state.
What line are you speaking about? From what, from where to where? From point, what
This one
point?
right there, it's right on the,
From Lincoln to Laconia?
This line right here.
It doesn't go to Laconia, no.
It dead ends north, it goes south.
She wants to know where it ends.
I got to pull up a different map for that. And I don't have that handy. I do have a map of the New Hampshire rail lines.
okay, we could get that
Yeah,
information.
of course, down the line.
Okay.
Absolutely. We're just bringing up questions that you're going to be addressing later.
Right,
so
we're
you
gonna
know.
be asked.
The whole effort here is
But from
education.
Lincoln
Right,
to Ashland.
yeah, and then just getting you ready for questions that the town's gonna ask.
It used to be the hobo.
Vermont Rail has offered their engineering services pro bono because they're going to get business out of it, to develop the sidings and the upgrade plans for the rail.
So when you get farther into that, we would be able to get copies of that to provide to people,
Yes.
so they would, okay.
Yes.
You still proposing to use the site the other waste to energy was proposed?
It's the same
Yeah,
site.
That is,
I kind of
has deed restrictions for access?
Here, but yeah, this one, the rail line runs adjacent through it, so that's a site that was tentatively picked out for now.
Yeah, there's deed restrictions to access that. It's at the edge of the designated Pemmy River overlay. It would be a project of regional interest that would trigger comments, both north and south.
Just to be
Good to
ready.
know.
I think
Good
that's
to
correct,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up before and it seemed like nobody thought it was important.
Well, I think those are things that we
I don't think
have
it got
to-
to that point
Yeah,
that
I
they
think
were.
those things will have to be.
No, I spoke at the Waldron meeting. The other thing is water and sewer,
Yes.
that those lagoons are just hanging on by the skin of their teeth.
We talked about the lagoons last time, right? Didn't we, Matt?
We have to have a wastewater treatment plant,
Yes.
that the area needed for that is the area where you're proposing to lease to this company.
So that we need a wastewater treatment plant at the site.
Yes. The,
Of course.
only, of the 4 lagoons, correct me if I'm wrong, Craig, only 3 are online, correct?
Yeah, well, they're using all of them
They're
because
using
they
all-
have to. That's the way it works.
But
It
they're,
comes in-
how old are they now, 30 plus years
Yeah,
old?
they-
Close to the 50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's just a matter of time where Ashland Water and Sewer will be told, you must
Okay, well, we'll look into it then. All right.
upgrade to a wastewater treatment plant. There's only 2 entities in communities in New Hampshire that have lagoons. Lincoln and Ashland.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Matt, you talked about doing some upgrades on infrastructure the last time. What types of infrastructure upgrades were you talking about that you would cover substantially?
Let me pull up just the private-public partnership, because that'll
Yes.
explain it. Since you guys qualify for the new market tax credit, you can set up what's called a community development entity that can be a part of this project. That gives private investors a 39% tax credit over 7 years. If you take like a higher income earner, that's like an immediate 5% return on investment just from the tax avoidance. If a private-public partnership can be set up, which is Ashland provides the land, that's it to build the facility. The P3, private-public partnership, becomes the landlord, and from that, you get the Inflation Reduction Act payments. The IRA tax credits become direct payments if it's held by a government entity or a nonprofit, such as a public-private partnership. You would also get the host fees and probably additional revenue shares, and that would be able to provide the funding for the capital upgrades you need. Because if you're looking to do any additional development, you're going to need to upgrade you're going to need to upgrade the electric, you're going to need to upgrade the roads, you're going to need to upgrade the sewage treatment plant, you're going to have to upgrade the water. And this will give you the funding to do that. Because we're looking to put these plants in place that will drive additional development.
So will you be able to provide us your estimate of what this money that would be coming into us would be based on the size of the plants, so people can have an idea of what we're talking?
Yes. A full-size plant. The Inflation Reduction Act, which gives credits for having low carbon hydrogen at $3 per kilogram. That would equal about $250 million a year.
Coming to Ashland? For who?
No, to the partnership.
To the
project.
partnership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, typically, a host fee, like in New Jersey, I've been using the New Jersey rule because they have it encoded in law. Any town, municipality that hosts a recycling facility, a landfill, or one of these plants gets a host fee of $4.50 per ton. That would come out to about $3.6 million a year paid to Ashland.
We could use that.
And that's just on the basis of the,
Host fee.
yeah.
That would not be day one, that would be at a
Right.
full-size plant, right? Full capacity, full-size plant, right?
Give us a sense of it. How does this happen? How does it roll out? What's the starting point? I think you said something about you could
starting
be a
point
pilot
is-
plant and then it could be built on. It's very scalable. That's what I heard. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I can scale this. Like the Dynamo systems, I can go as little as 7.5 tons per day. It's just a matter of are you getting a waste stream to justify the cost of that smaller plant? The fast stock systems, they're about 100 metric tons or 110 short tons per day per module. So you could start off smaller and just add more over time and expand the plant.
No, a second. Craig, do you know how much waste we do?
Per year, I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But it's hundreds of thousands, probably 100,000. I don't know.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
the number of guys you posted before, you said you were spending about $100,000 on trash, and it was going to go up to $300,000 once the landfill you were using closed.
So that's an immediate savings in the process that we could realize.
So you talked about putting in a pilot so we could see it, touch it, feel it before we commit to the big thing. Could you tell us tell everybody what this pilot what you'd be putting in here and what it would do for us?
That would be the stage 2 for just producing electricity. And this is everything that we can put into that system.
So what would you put here? Because you talked about like modules or how would this work? What would you put in Ashland? What would look at what would Ashland still have to sort their trash or not sort their trash? What would happen?
You would be sorting your trash.
We would be?
Wouldn't be.
Wouldn't
We'd
be.
pull the metals out.
Okay.
So would not
It
be.
simplifies.
Would not be.
That's another thing in this whole system is to stop the separation of trash and waste and trying to separate food waste out because we're not landfilling it. You don't need to do that. And ideally, when we get the full-size plant going, or at least a module where we have the fast stock system there, everything goes in one truck.
Okay.
So what's the scope of this starting plant, this pilot plant? I mean, what would we see on the being built on the property? A building where things roll in and stuff rolls out. What's the scope of this?
You would have a metal building that vehicles would pull in to, waste would be put down on a tipping floor, and then it'd be moved into the equipment for processing. Generally, these buildings are negative pressure, so they would wrap it up, roll up and roll down doors, and they have odor control.
And
So the idea is is to not cause any type of odor issues or trash blowing around issues. It's all going to be indoors.
And no fumes. That's beautiful.
What's the output now of that process?
For the stage 2, it's going to be, in this case, amended with these new generators that are now commercialized. It's going to be electricity.
Okay, we're going to be generating electricity, and this will or will not have a smokestack.
We'll have a stack.
Yeah, that's how you're going to generate the electricity.
In this case, we're making a raw syngas that will be burned very cleanly. It's the one I showed you the chart from all the EPA regs, and it'll be used to produce power.
How does the company who's going to do this benefit from this pilot-sized project? Because I can't imagine this is going to be very profitable to them at this level. I mean, it sounds good for the town. We're going to have some place to put our waste, where it's going to generate electricity that we could benefit from. Well, what's the incentive here on the part of the people who are making this investment?
Well, these systems are not that expensive to run. They have minimal staffing, and is to actually get these systems up and running.
Yeah, so I mean, they're looking at
That's
this.
what it comes down to.
They're
It's a
looking at the
question-
pilot as something that can be scaled up and becomes at some point profitable.
Yeah, it'll be. We're not going to do anything unprofitable. But the idea is to have one of these systems up. People can run it. See it running. They're comfortable. It's not causing a mess. It's not causing odors. People aren't turning green and falling over dead.
And so,
And they can see that it's actually a good system. The problem is the system running now is in Barrow, Alaska.
so Matt, question for
I'll
you.
go to take a look at it.
For the stage 2 pilot, what do you need for input? Is it just the town of Ashland, or do we need to find suitors to join us in the pilot?
That's what I'm going to have to do a pro forma on.
Okay.
What's available? What can we bring in there? There's also higher ways that provide a much higher tipping fee. For example, right now I work with Triumvirate Environmental. They work in all the major hospitals and that. And there's a big issue with getting rid of expired pharmaceuticals because they have to be incinerated or thermally destroyed somehow. And they spend $300 a ton to get rid of the stuff, and there's not enough capacity. So it could be another company that can come in that you don't have to rely on the local towns that would make this profitable because they can bring those items in to have them destroyed.
Well, and certainly anybody else that's taking their trash to Bethlehem might be a a customer, right?
And these systems are approved for regulated medical waste, because right now the hospitals, you guys wonder why things are so expensive. The waste right now is going all the way, it's like trace chemo, it's all going away to an incinerator in Ohio, North Carolina, or Baltimore, Maryland. One of my clients is Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. They were spending $3 million a year in waste, or $2,300 per ton on average.
So for the pilot, you would be building that building, plus you would be having to put that in. How big is this building that you're talking about?
It depends on how big the pilot is. One of these systems for 7.5 ton per day system would fit on a 100 by 100 foot space. 1,000 square.
And you would build that building for us, or so we're not? You're building it.
Yeah, it comes from Ashland. It's a setup, the private-public partnership. It's essentially to say, if you come, we will let you build it.
Right.
We provide a formal proposal. I say, here's our initial project. We'd like to expand from here, and say, okay, if you come, you bring the financing, we'll let you build it. See, my issue is the chicken and the egg. I can't put any of the engineering groups, any of the financiers to start committing resources until there's a place that'll allow this to be built. They'll come to me, who's going to let you build it? That's where it comes down to.
Well, how many of these would be built in the area in New Hampshire? I mean, what are you looking to build? 1, 10? What would be viable?
We would be right now. New Hampshire imports about 57% of the waste is landfilled. We'd be looking to probably more than one facility. Eventually, the idea for us is to put these in from Florida all up and down the eastern seaboard, where you're running out of landfill space and waste costs are getting very expensive. We're looking to not have waste shipped, like New York City right now, they ship their waste all the way to Alabama.
If you identify geographic areas that produce X amount of waste, and at a certain capacity, you'd be able to separate the plants, and each would consume its area's waste.
Yeah, and for New Hampshire, where you guys are importing waste, I had the number exactly how many tons a year you import, and I don't have it in front of me, I apologize. But the idea is this, New Hampshire screaming, it's like, we don't want to be a dumping ground. In this case, would be brought in, you would be dumping. It would be like, you'd be paid to take the fuel to make a lot of products.
If I may, the reason why a year and a half ago we voted against the waste to energy plant, okay? And we voted against it because we don't want to be known as Trashland, all right? So basically, all the nice things you said were told us by Waldron, said the same thing, okay?
No, we were going to have to finance.
But we were
we were going to have to finance it, but we're still going to be getting all of this trash and this pie in the sky, $600 million. Oh my God, this is great, right? But now you're talking, what was that, 2,200 tons a day?
It's the number of the world.
I know, it's a big number, right? Okay, but you're throwing numbers around, so they got to have some sort of weight, right? Right, so you said 2,200 tons a day. So how many trains is that? I mean, we have the Hobo Railroad, and it sounds nice when you hear the train whistle.
20 tons.
Yeah, and they're probably going to be traveling at night because the Hobo Railroad uses the line in the daytime, and there aren't that many sidelines. So you can't be bringing a freight train through when they got the tourist train going through. So, okay, we're going to be listening to train whistles all night. And then too, in order to send electricity out, the town has to be metered. Is that correct? If I had a solar panel on my roof and I wanted to put the excess power back in the grid, the town has to be metered. This is what I'm told. All right? So if you're going to be selling power, you have to be metered. The town has to be metered. And we're not presently metered, are we?
Well, the
With
meters
new-
speak.
Is that correct?
With
How
the
they're
new
giving it to us.
substation, we will be metered.
No, even with the old substation, we weren't metered.
No, the new one.
Every substation has a meter.
Right. Oh, so then,
Eversource gives us power, there's a meter.
okay, so then.
That's
then
how
what
it
you-
works. Everybody has a meter.
What you're saying is that if I were to put solar panels on, then I could sell it back. I could, because then we're metered.
That's right.
Okay.
Our meters are all capable of that.
All right,
The new
okay.
ones are.
Because I was told that we weren't.
Well, with the new ones
That's
are.
wrong.
The new
Okay,
ones are.
all right, good.
And the problem with the other company too is that we were going to have emissions that everybody was worried about. With this, we don't.
Oh, well, no.
Because there's a
There's two
molecular-
systems. He said one system, there's no emissions. The other system, there are emissions. But you never really clearly said which system we're gonna get.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
I didn't hear it. Which one?
Number two.
Which is the one with the emissions?
With the stack.
We'll get
But
something
over the
stacked.
entire development, what's different is we will be using both. So that only a smaller proportion of the waste conversion will go through the system that generates the electricity and has the stack.
Pardon?
A large part of it goes through a system without the stack, so it reduces the amount of volume that goes
Okay.
through the smokestack.
All right, yeah, so, you're saying that, it's gonna be, we live in a valley, okay? And if you ever get up in early in the morning where you have a cold night, you got a warm, water, you're gonna have a cloud, okay? And this cloud's gonna sit there.
Joe, can I?
I'm finishing. I'm gonna finish what I'm saying. I don't want you to interrupt me.
No, let me ask you a
Why are you
favor.
interrupting me?
Because I want to ask you a favor. We invited Matt to talk. Your comments, we want your comments and we want to listen to you, but this is not the moment because Matt is here just to give us information. When he's done, you can say whatever you want to say, okay, about it, but you're just jumping the gun on us a little bit. Let's let the gentleman get out his information. We want to get some questions from the group, and then we'll digest this and you comment whatever you
Well,
want.
it's nice that a contradictory thing is being shut down, whereas she was being favored and you let her go. So, but go ahead. Go
But
ahead.
Matt might be able to answer your
Right.
concern on emissions. Matt, is there going to be clouds of smoke and
I didn't say that.
emissions? No, but I'm
said.
saying, is there emissions that are poisonous in the air?
It's not the 1950s. That's why I was bringing up. There's very strict air emissions. We have to go through a full permitting process, both the state of New Hampshire and the federal government. Permitting process is going to take at least a year.
Well, that's a good follow-up question. What is the timeline to roll something like this out, to get to the pilot process and potentially expand that? What are we talking about? 5, 10?
Stage one, the enhanced recycling, 6 to 18 months, depending on permits. The equipment is readily available.
Okay.
For the midterm timeline, 18 to 36 months. Most of that is permits. These modules are made in the USA. I can get them made in 6 months.
Okay, so
And you're talking 36 to 60 months for the conversion into the waste to methanol.
okay, so that's a 5-year timeline.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So what's the difference between, now I just want to answer this gentleman's concerns too, because if he has those concerns on emissions, there's going to be many, many more with the same question. So if you don't mind, Matt, I mean, we're trying to work with you because it sounds wonderful, but it is a concern. The emissions, we had like neighboring towns that were coming to us and saying, we don't want you to get it because of the emissions that come out of the stacks. Is this company something where they don't really have to worry about that because of your molecular change in the product?
For the, let me pull up the.
I hope you don't mind me reiterating.
These are the numbers that count. Essentially, the emissions that come out of the Dynamis system is so low that it's not going to have any material impact on the air quality in Ashland.
Okay.
And you see that he has the EPA requirement up there
Yeah.
in his.
Yeah, but I think it was important to bring that up.
Yeah,
so-
no, I agree. But in every case, they're well below the EPA.
We can't say any of
This
this
is
stuff.
before mitigation.
Okay.
There's gonna
We can
be
make it
additional
available.
pollution control
We'll post
equipment
this.
on
We'll post
this.
this out there.
That should be required.
Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have been late. I got the information the meeting started at 6:30. I'm sorry.
You missed all the.
Yeah, I missed all the good stuff. I'm sorry.
Well, it's gonna be online.
Yeah, I'll look at
Because it's being-
it. But I did have two questions, and one is the surrounding towns, because I think if we're doing this, we're gonna need to be in conversation with the surrounding towns, because they're gonna have concerns. That's one. Second, the Lakes Region Planning Commission, I think, needs to be part of the discussion as well.
Yep.
And, because I understand that in the past, there's been a lot of tension with their perceiving this town, other individual towns kind of going ahead without it being fully coordinated, and I think we have to be very careful about that.
I mean, I think we can offer some incentives to our neighbors because they have the same waste problems that we do.
Yeah.
And so that their participation in this is potentially going to be valuable to them also.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not asking anybody to just put up with our noise and
Sure.
whatever.
No, I assume not, but just putting it on the
Yeah,
table, but I think that's gonna be really
And I think that's going
important.
to be an important initiative, and maybe you're right. Maybe the planning commission, Lake Region, would be a good forum for that, as well as the group. Craig, what's the group that are in our waste?
Oh, Hemi Baker.
Hemi Baker, yeah.
I think we absolutely have to, because I think they may actually have some ultimate authority over some decisions that individual towns
They
can
have
make.
a division, a waste division at
Right. All
LRPC.
stakeholders will have to weigh in and participate, and I think in many cases we're going to offer them benefits, and so there's going to be an incentive to work with us.
So, can I ask, do we have other questions for Matt?
And just to emphasize, this is to eliminate landfills. This gets rid of the landfill issue for Ashland.
You said something about consuming an existing land. Is that economically feasible? Like if we wanted to get rid of our landfill and recover that land? or
Yeah,
other
that's one
towns?
of the things we've looked at for mitigating landfills that are leaching that are online. Would be with the Dynamo system, we could potentially remediate the landfill,
That is amazing.
pull the material out, and then gasify it, detoxify it, and then that land could be put to good use over time.
I'm sorry, I do have one other question, and that is with the federal government aggressively removing all environmental standards, if those are removed, as part of whatever gets negotiated,
No,
can
these-
we assume that these will
these-
still meet strict standards?
These, well, if they remove the standards would be even better, but they're not going to remove the standards.
Yeah,
The EPA is not changing air emissions for anything that is considered hazardous, such as lead, cadmium, dioxins, furans. The whole issue right now is over CO2 emissions.
And the standards really, what Matt's telling us is that the process that has been evolved is well within standards. If the standards went away, the process doesn't become more inefficient. It's still going to be the same level of control.
Let's let you know.
I just wanted to add that the state standards at the Department of Environmental Services are more strict than the federal ones. And that's,
what we have to go by.
what's that?
Do we have to go by the state?
You have to go by the
Go
state.
by the state. Go by the whatever strict.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
thanks, Matt.
Are there any other questions?
I just
We
asked.
all- we good?
We didn't know.
Okay.
Matt, we'll be in touch.
All right.
Thank you, appreciate it. So,
This presentation's being recorded, right? So-
Yes, we'll record so we can have some discussion amongst us.
yeah, so a couple of things. So we had this presentation 2 or 3 months ago for this group. And we knew that the biggest, there was a split on the committee. There were some that were skeptical and took the information home and did their research and came back and felt a little bit better after having a conversation. We understood from day one that the biggest part of seeing this through, if this is what Ashland decided, was education on our part and education from Matt. If this isn't a good thing for Ashland, we don't want it. But I think that this board, so our charter here is to bring money into the town. This town is bleeding money. I go home after these meetings and I want my wife to beat me because we have so little money in this town. So we're in such a bad way here. So I hope that you see that our mission is true, right? We're trying to do what's best for Ashland. If we decide, if the town decides this isn't the thing, so be it. We're not trying to push anything down your throat. We're not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. We want to do what's best for Ashland. Go.
And I like when they first started talking about this, the minute they're talking about trash, the trash energy, thinking of the other thing that we looked at, and I was like, ooh, don't want this. And that I was one of the, I was very a naysayer. But then we had the presentation, and then so I'm one who studies. I will go look it up, study, read about it and stuff. And I started reading about it, and it's like, maybe, and I started reading more about it, and I'm not just sitting here saying I'm 100% let's go. I'm not there.
I have a wife that's not convinced yet.
And you have a daughter who does all kinds of legal in all of these third world countries where they've been totally destroyed with pollution, and so so we're looking at this. It's a very important aspect to be comfortable that we don't want to saddle the town with another problem. We don't want to do that.
That's right. So again, it's a plant that makes toxic chemicals and explosive material. Methanol is explosive.
So is gasoline
Yeah.
and propane, natural gas. They all are.
We can't have gas stations down in that area.
Right.
It's something against it.
We sit on a gas tank every time we drive our car, and we've learned how to live with it and manage it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I get you. So we should do more then, right? We're trying to.
All we're asking is that you have an open mind. Take some of the information. If you end up voting no,
If we even get that far, because we're still in the study.
Convincing ourselves stage.
We're still in the
looking at the
studying
details.
process.
We don't expect everybody here to get down into the weeds where we're going to go, but we're going down into the weeds. And as we surface additional information, like we did tonight, we're going to invite you all here to hear it firsthand, so that you have all the information that we can put together.
I might also add that we mentioned Bethlehem earlier. We're losing our landfill next year.
Yeah, please.
27.
26, right?
No, 27.
27.
This year.
Uh-huh.
26. Okay. So if this isn't a good solution, by all means, tell us. What's the solution? Okay, go ahead.
As I contended the last time, it's not the facility itself, it's where you want to site it.
Okay.
As I said, you have deed restrictions
If it can't be done, it can't be done.
to access that property. There's a wellhead protection area. You will be driving in the vicinity
Okay.
over.
Again, if it can't be done, it can't be done.
Let me finish, sir.
Yeah.
Wellhead protection area. Pemi overlay, a state designated river. Regional impact.
So we'll have to look at all that. If it can't be done, it can't be done.
Remember, we will have potentially millions of dollars for.
Charlie, I don't want to hear that right now. I'm putting forward.
Yeah,
You're citing. You're citing.
They're not gonna build it if they
Don't,
can't build it.
well, don't-
Because you gotta go through, you gotta go through
we
DES.
understand the
They will.
complexity,
They're not gonna
and at the end of the day, it may not be even feasible, because we haven't reached the point where we.
But I'm just
No,
trying
it's
to
feasible.
put this out there because many people don't
And
know.
we have to go down that
The
road
area.
of all those processes,
Yeah.
where there's gonna be lots of lawyers involved, and it's gonna be a lot of detail, as not
Yes,
pointed out.
Charlie.
This
Yes,
doesn't happen in weeks or months.
But
It's
I'm
gonna
sure
be
you have people
years.
sitting here at this table that did not know what I just put forward.
You know, the whole well thing, because I did put that in an email, do we have to move our well? Will they drill us another well? I mean, they're just throwing this
No.
stuff out here. But then, you know, you've got the part that's, you know, where they're talking over by, where the well held and the lagoons are. But then you've got the whole thing where the current transfer station is, and I think these are all, if it starts looking like something that has potential, then we start digging down, okay, what about here? Can we, why not, what's the problem? Okay, if these are too great for us to overcome, okay, let's see, is there another spot that is better? And we look at these different things. The whole thing with the watershed and protecting all that, that's a big deal.
Yes.
It is a very big deal.
It-
Our well, we already had a contaminated well, you know, so this is a big deal. But some of the stuff that Matt had talked earlier, that the infrastructure upgrades, you know, they might be willing to do some of them.
They're willing to come in here and spend millions of dollars
So-
to make
Once
it
again, I
right.
said
Yes.
it's cited.
Yes,
I am the Ashland representative for the Pemmy River
Okay.
Local Advisory
so
Committee.
you're doing your
So
job.
I need this information because it affects every member,
Yes.
from Lincoln down to
And
Franklin.
we will make sure you have everything that
Well,
we
the
know.
last time this didn't happen and I had to provide it all myself.
Okay,
So I would like everything in hand to bring to my next meeting.
Give me
We are
your email
starting- we are
address, give me your
starting
email
early.
address and I'll send you the presentation
We are starting
tonight.
early
I can send it to you
because we
tonight.
understand that was a problem the last time around, okay?
I
We're
mean,
gonna
the
get a head
members
start on
were up
this.
in arms because,
We're gonna put out, we're gonna
Wait,
pressure
wait a minute, we
the
can only
group.
talk one person at a time.
Okay.
Only
And-
one person can talk at a time. Right now,
and I'm the only representative from the town and have been for the last 6 years. So if anybody's interested in the health of the Pemmy River, we can have up to 3 members, and I've been the only member for the past 6 years.
So our whole goal here is to be as transparent as we possibly can be. Okay, if you need something from us, come see me. Okay?
Does everybody know
We-
Peter Ott, by the way? I mean, some people
No.
have, he has a, he has a.
Nobody
We don't know
introduced
anybody.
themselves.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry
Sorry.
about that. You know, he's the chair of this committee. Okay, and he's been doing some really great work to help put some of this together. But yeah, maybe you'll want to open up a dialogue with Peter because he is the person who is going to control the flow of information ultimately.
So
Although we're all
one of
involved.
the things that we've talked about in the committee is getting a webpage on the town's, getting a page on the town's website. Because we would like to communicate on a regular basis
That would
what
be
we're
better
doing
than
and what we're
Facebook.
working on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we want input from you guys, because if you guys have any ideas, not on this project, but on how we can help the town, we want to know about it.
That's a great idea.
So, who doesn't know, who else don't you know?
This gentleman right here
Okay.
to your left is,
My name is Bino Lamontagne. I live at 15 Summer Street here in town, and I'm with the state of New Hampshire's Department of Business and Economic Affairs. My area of responsibility is Grafton County, Carroll County, and Coos County. I'm originally from Colebrook before I moved here. I'm a former selectman in Colebrook and a former business owner in Colebrook for 30 years.
And I'll just comment further on
And he's on
Bino.
this committee.
He's a charter member of the Economic Development Committee that goes back to the original
Version one.
construction. Okay?
Version one.
Yeah, version 1, that's right.
She was too. That's right.
And he has really come forward as a major resource because of his connections to the economic development of the state. He has brought some of these opportunities to our attention, and in the future, there are a number of opportunities that Bino says he'd like to be able to help us out with. And I would just make the statement, if we really want to turn around the financial situation in this town, Bino's going to be a really big asset for us and help us do some really positive things.
We need a town planner.
Pete, when do you think that
It was
the
tough enough to get the
feasibility
group back
thing,
together as an economic
study will be
developer.
ready? Anytime.
What feasibility study?
The one that you guys are gonna do before this plant comes in.
Well,
It's
there's
a
a,
feasibility study.
yeah, we haven't started working on a feasibility study at this point.
And we have to work with Matt because, we're sitting here and it's like, okay, what would be phase one? What would we do? And then figuring out where it would go and having more of these meetings.
I mean,
The feasibility study is a good point, and it can be funded by an organization that I sat on for 12 years. It's called the Community Development Finance Authority, CDFA for short, and they fund these types of feasibility studies. So,
And we definitely need that.
yeah,
That's why I said we need a town
totally agree.
planner.
so one other thing to keep in mind here is that this wouldn't be a solution just for Ashland. A lot of our neighbors are gonna run into the same thing that we're running into right now.
But it's not in their town.
They don't have the train in the highway intersection
Right.
that these people are interested
Right,
in.
we are
Makes us-
uniquely
makes us special.
situated.
So, Vito, when did Vermont take over this rail
Well, that's a
line?
very good point. Vermont Rail bought, first of all, they're out of Burlington, and they're all over Vermont. Vermont Rail bought out the lease from Ed Jeffrey, who leases from the state because it's all state rail, on a leg up in Colebrook, where I'm originally from,
Yeah.
and also a leg over in Whitefield, at their industrial park, and the leg down here. And I like the fact that this company, as opposed, I knew Ed very well, and he was an opportunist, like maybe a lot of people are, but he never moved the needle very far. It was a matter of just, I'll lease the line from the state. I'll see what I can do about, making a little money, if you will. And I know that the folks up in Colebrook were very disappointed that instead of putting money in the rail and making it an active rail, he used that section to just park old rail cars that needed painting and that were all full of graffiti and stuff like that. These guys aren't like that. The first thing they did is pushed all those cars right off their rail, and they're looking to rehab all three sections.
So what
Actually
happened to
make them
Patriot?
active.
What happened to Patriot?
I don't know.
They're probably
That's-
sublet letters from the new president.
That's a good point. That's what probably was going on. They were sublet, and that's a very good point. Knowing Ed, he probably was, well,
I live in Lincoln.
I can sublet, and so yeah, that's a good point. But they are owned by the state. It's the my colleagues at New Hampshire DOT that manage that whole
Except
thing.
it's not DOT, it's Division of,
No, they're owned by the Department of
yes, but
Transportation.
if you want to communicate with them, you don't go through DOT. The trains are in a totally different
Yeah, Shelley. yeah.
within DOT, yeah.
Shelley is the director of rail and aeronautics in our state. So everything has to run through Shelley Winters, who actually made this deal with Vermont Rail, and they're doing a fantastic job. Great people to deal with.
But where they pass through center of Plymouth,
I don't know. I mean, that's question.
well, no, it does, that's where the rail line is.
Yeah, I mean, the only ones that can answer that are going to be Vermont Rail.
So it's
and-
just for information for these people.
Right. Well, and I'll be glad to invite Sean from Vermont Rail to attend a meeting, and he'll answer.
Yeah, historically,
everyone's
it's closed,
questions.
the line's closed all winter from December to,
Yeah, no, that's a
April.
great point, and
Yeah.
he will clear that up 100%.
Who is this person that we should invite to this?
Keep in mind that you guys now are pretty much as far along the journey as we are, right? We don't have a whole lot more information at this point. We've had one conversation with Matt. We wanted to bring him back to have an additional conversation with you. We understand that if this is going to move forward, the biggest part of our job is education.
Okay, but you need to understand that we were fed a bill of goods with the last plant, okay?
Yeah, I had nothing to
So,
do with that. Yeah, I wasn't-
my
I
level
didn't-
of distrust is quite large.
That's fine. I mean,
Little gun shy?
On many levels.
Once fooled,
That
twice
last
shy.
one.
That's right.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't involved in that and I wasn't around for that, so.
It's totally different. But that last one was horrible, you're right.
And,
On
and,
so
and
many
again,
levels.
the key to this is this costs out of pocket us $0.
Yeah, but it costs in other ways if it's not a good thing.
Right.
Okay?
If it's not, if it's not a good thing, we don't do
Cuts
it.
right off.
Well,
We
yeah,
don't
you
do
know,
it if it's not a
and,
good thing.
You know, sometimes you have to take the bull by the horns. And you know what I mean? Before you go too far.
All we're asking is an open mind.
And there's
All we're
other things,
asking is
too.
an
You
open
have
mind.
You have the abilities of Bonnie Bethune, who worked with the NRRA.
She's a member of this board.
So, well,
She's not
let me
here.
finish. What she did was, and what her expertise is in organic recycling and composting. Okay? And she seems to be a big proponent
Why
for.
don't you ask her what her opinion of this
I
project is?
did ask her.
And?
Okay, and she gave me a textbook answer. I said, thanks, Bonnie. As a matter of fact, in Maine, I went to the meeting in Augusta, okay? And I said, geez, Bonnie, I'm dead set against you over here with the incinerator. And she walked away. So, okay, you know, that was good. Yeah, she's out of her field.
All right, well, this is
Okay.
not productive, so.
Right.
Next, yeah, please.
Just following up on the idea
Yeah.
of seeing whether we can get a page on the
I
town
know.
website and the idea of education.
Thank you, Joe.
Rather
You're
than just waiting until large town meetings where you get bombarded with all of the fears. If there's a website where people can feed questions and there can be a rolling update.
We'd love to.
You know, I think
mean,
that
it'd
kind
be
of
nice
thing
if
on
we
a
could have
website
just a
page.
Q&A page.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Where
But
people
that
could just
way,
put their
you know,
questions out
direct people
there.
to that, and that could serve the dual function of fielding questions
Yeah.
ahead of time so that people feel that
Right,
you are
totally.
fulfilling the goal of
You
transparency
said that you
and
were
public
looking into that,
education.
right?
Yeah,
And
we've
you
looked
get
at the
the
possibility.
word
yeah.
out along the way, and hopefully people, and using the town systems to let people know that that's
I
there.
mean, we all live in town, right?
Yeah.
None of us want
But you
a
said you
smoke
were
filled.
looking into it, how come it hasn't happened?
Looking into what?
What, you had said that you were looking into
The website?
exactly what she had said.
No, I'm just following up on his saying that they
So
were
it's-
hoping to do
Why-
that.
Can I add something on that one? We've, the town has been working on a new website for a while, and there've been various reasons why it hasn't quite been there.
Okay.
But, we have a new town manager that's starting at the end of the month, and one of the things that we discussed with him is, communication to the public on what's going on here and there, and how this is very important, that we want a better free
Yeah,
flow of
introduce
information.
Ron to the group.
This is Ron here.
Oh my gosh.
The new town manager? You
No, I already
last
figured out.
Welcome.
And
Welcome.
I will be very, very accessible. And we will get
We're
to work on that.
working on getting
And,
information out to people.
and I just want to point out, he went up, he's not on the payroll for being here tonight. He's come, you know, he's volunteered to do this on his own, so he gets up to speed. He wants to know what's going on. And, you know, we're really happy that he's taken that kind of initiative and you know,
We're excited.
We're excited bringing Ron on board. We believe he is going to represent Ashland a professional level beyond what he's had.
Well, you give me, my wife's not gonna sell.
If I can circle back to the website here, just real briefly, and the whole education piece. I don't know if you guys remember back to last March when we've had that this conversation here on this committee. But when you went into the booth, there were 35 questions there. And I don't think there was a person in town that went into that booth prepared to answer those questions. So, okay, well, congratulations, take a bow if you were. But I mean, there's 35 questions in there, and it's almost impossible to be,
Yeah.
to be, you know, even the solar question, which was the question, right?
That was confusing.
Depending on who you asked in town, you didn't know if this was a good thing or a bad thing. So
It's
the
because
better
of
we
the
can
way
do
we have
of
to do
educating,
it.
not just on this, but
It's the
on
process.
every issue, the better off the town's gonna be.
We
No,
didn't
he's
have
got-
to have
we'll
it in
follow up comments.
legalese.
little follow-up comment, had that solar gone through, I mean, and there were a number of us that, really looked at that initially positively.
That wasn't worded well.
That's right, it wasn't worded well, and the land that we're looking at, this valuable land that Ashland could use, if it's not for this, for something in the future, would have been taken off the table for 30 years. So the town did an excellent job in reading through a very poorly worded warrant article, figuring that out, and turning it down, because
I think that's why they voted
Oh, we
no,
just got
because
lucky.
it wasn't understood.
and whatever the rationale, we wouldn't be having this discussion if the town had voted yes. And the value of that proposal to the town is minimal, and certainly compared to this. So, the town gets it right a lot of times.
And the other thing is legalese does not have to be not understandable.
Right, legalese, right.
It
Yes.
does not. I have two lawyers in the family.
Did they work for the state of New Hampshire?
And they have told me, Mother, you should be able to understand.
This is why we need voters guides.
Right, voter guide, right.
Or you have to have more meetings.
A voter guide, a lot of towns have
Well,
voter guides.
when
you
I
have-
was on the board, we had voters guides.
Right.
Am I correct, Alan?
Yes.
Yes. So that broke down each warrant article so people could understand it.
We need to get back.
We need to get back to that because people are depending now to get all the information on Facebook, which is the worst place to get your information about what's happening in town.
All right, other
That's my
questions?
personal
Comments?
feelings on that.
Yeah, I have
Sorry.
two questions. Where's Matt located?
I don't even know.
He is in Massachusetts, all right, somewhere.
I don't know.
Read Inc.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I heard
He
Massachusetts.
can't be that
might
far because he's got a place in Vermont.
The other question is, did you mention, is there a plant in operation in San Diego near the military base?
There was a place in California. I don't
It's
know.
I don't know which
Yeah.
city it's in, but
Yeah.
he does have one in California.
Well, because we were going to be out there in August, and if it's close to where we're going to be in Southern
Didn't he say?
California.
I thought he said
Yeah.
Northern California, didn't he?
We'll find out.
He hadn't said.
We will find out.
Yeah,
Where is the plant in California?
because I would like to go visit the plant and ask questions.
There you go. Yeah. And I'm sure they'd be glad to have you.
Yeah,
Okay.
That would
He
be
could
great.
make that happen.
yeah.
All right, other questions? Comments? We may
How often do
shelve,
we meet so they know?
we may shelve the, master plan.
We may do that.
Yeah, next time.
We meet,
All right, again,
Tell them.
what's that?
you want to know how often we meet.
Yeah.
First-
I'd like them to know how
Yeah.
often we meet.
First and third Wednesday of each month here, 5:30.
And we really work hard to get an agenda. Sometimes it doesn't get out till the day of the meeting, and we apologize for that. But we're all volunteers, and so that's what happens.
But my town email is,
You don't have it.
it's another thing we're working on.
We don't have town emails.
Because we don't have a budget for emails for this committee yet. That's where our starting point.
Okay.
We're working.
Thank you very much.
But thank you all for coming. Please come to any of the meetings that you want. We're trying to be transparent. I'll answer any of your questions that I can. Thank you.